Marriage is like patching up a wall. You don't spot the cracks until the plaster starts flaking off in ugly chunks. By then, you're looking at a full rebuild. I'm Jack Hensley, 39, a site supervisor for a company throwing up shopping centers and office parks. It's not flashy, but it keeps the lights on and puts food on the table for my two girls. My wife, Lorie, thinks I'm dull as dishwater. She's probably got a point, but dull covers her spin classes and cocktail nights with her friends. Speaking of those nights, Lorie's been out a lot lately, 3 times this week, and it's only Wednesday. She comes home reeking of some fancy perfume that's not hers, chuckling at texts she keeps shielded from me. "Who's blowing up your phone at midnight?" I asked last Monday, eyeing her thumbs dancing over the screen. "Just Marla," she mumbled, not looking up. "Friend stuff. You wouldn't get it." Marla Kendrick, Lorie's college buddy, is a family lawyer who treats relationships like a cage match. She's got an opinion on everything and doesn't wait for an invitation to share, especially about guys who don't cherish their wives enough. I was stacking plates in the dishwasher when I overheard Lorie and Marla chatting in the den. The walls in our suburban Indiana house are paper thin. "I'm telling you, Lorie, you gotta lay down the law with him," Marla was saying. "Men are like puppies. Set firm rules." Lorie laughed. "Jack's already tamed. He handles dishes, gets the kids from school, and doesn't gripe when I head out." Marla's voice turned sly. "But is he really doing it for you? Like in the way that counts?" I paused, sponge in hand, gripping the edge of a baking dish. "There are other fish in the sea," Marla went on. "Take Gavin Holt, for instance. That guy knows how to treat a woman right. Did you see him at the fundraiser last month? Those moves, that swagger." My teeth ground together. Gavin Holt owns half the retail property in our town. Single, loaded, and, according to local chatter, a real charmer. He rolls around in a sleek electric car, sports tailored suits, and flashes a grin that makes wives forget their vows. "Marla, quit it," Lorie said with a giggle that didn't sound convincing. "I'm just saying, life's too short. You deserve to feel something again." That talk was 3 weeks back. Since then, Lorie's been off, distant. She's hitting the gym at odd hours, buying new outfits, and glued to her phone. When I lean in for a goodnight kiss, she turns away, muttering about being wiped out. The girls have noticed too. Ellie, 13 and sharp as a blade, rolls her eyes every time Lorie enters the room. Little Sophie, 7, keeps asking why Mommy's always grumpy with me. "She's not grumpy, kiddo," I told Sophie over pancakes last Thursday. "Mom's just swamped with work." Lorie glanced up from her phone long enough to shoot me a look that could freeze water. "Don't put words in my mouth, Jack." "Sorry, just trying to clear things up," I said. "I can speak for myself," she snapped. Ellie scoffed. "Maybe if you'd talk to us instead of staring at that screen all day." "Watch it, Missy," Lorie fired back. "You watch it," Ellie retorted, grabbing her bag and storming off to catch the bus. That's when I knew we were in deep. When you're teenagers picking sides, you've got trouble that runs way past normal spats. The real kicker hit on a drizzly Wednesday night. I was folding laundry in our bedroom when Lorie's gym bag slipped off the bed, spilling its contents across the hardwood. Tank tops, leggings, energy bars, and a phone I'd never seen before. A cheap burner. My hands trembled as I picked it up. The screen was still on, showing a text thread with a contact labeled G with a winking emoji. The latest message made my gut twist. "Counting down to tonight. Same spot as always." Lorie's reply. "On my way. Jack's stuck at work late. We've got hours." I sat on the bed staring at the phone, feeling like I'd been sucker punched. 20 years of marriage, 2 amazing daughters, a house we've nearly paid off, and she's tossing it for Gavin Holt's slick talk and pricey aftershave. I heard Lorie's car roll into the driveway. Quick, I stuffed everything back in her bag, except the phone, which I hid in my toolbox in the garage. Proof. Might come in handy. "Hey," Lorie said, strolling into the bedroom, hair tousled, cheeks pink. "How was your day?" "All right," I said, keeping it short, not trusting my voice. She eyed me for a second, then shrugged and headed for the bathroom. Marla called. She's planning a girls' weekend at her cabin. You know, unwind, sip some wine, catch up. "When?" I asked. "This weekend. Last minute, I know, but you're good with the girls, right? You're always so great with them." The syrupy tone in her voice made my stomach churn. "Sure, enjoy yourself," I said. "Thanks, hun. You're the best." As the shower hummed, I made up my mind. Lorie wanted to play dirty? Fine, but I've been in the game longer than she thinks. In construction, you learn to spot weak spots before the whole thing collapses. My marriage was crumbling. But I wasn't going down easy. I grabbed my phone and scrolled to a contact. Pete Warwick, an ex-cop turned private investigator. We'd crossed paths on a few job sites, and he owed me one after I smoothed things over with some city officials. Pete, it's Jack Hensley. I need a favor. Can we grab coffee tomorrow? And Pete, bring your camera. Thursday morning hit like a freight train. I barely slept, my brain churning through plans and what-ifs. Lorie was gone when I woke up, probably sneaking off to meet Gavin for an early workout. The thought made my coffee taste like dirt. Ellie was munching cereal, scrolling her phone, when I came downstairs. "Dad, you okay? You look rough." "Language," I said in reflex, pouring another cup. "I'm fine, just beat." "Is Mom really going to Marla's cabin, or is that another lie?" I nearly spit out my coffee. "What's that mean?" Ellie gave me a look too wise for 13. "I'm not dumb, Dad. She's been weird for weeks. Yesterday, I saw her texting some guy named Gavin. She hid the phone when she caught me looking." Smart kid. My Ellie's too sharp for her own good sometimes. "Your mom's dealing with some things," I told her carefully, keeping my voice steady. "But no matter what goes down, you and Sophie are my whole world. Got that?" Ellie nodded, her face serious. "Are you guys splitting up?" The question hit me like a brick to the chest. "I don't know, kid. Maybe. But if we do, it's not on you or Sophie. Sometimes grown-ups mess up." "Mom's messing up big time," Ellie muttered. Yeah, she was. I met Pete at a greasy spoon on the edge of town, far from where Lorie and her crew might spot us. He was tucked in a back booth, looking every bit the ex-cop he was. Graying hair, lined face, eyes that caught everything. "You look like hell, Jack," he said. "Heard that one already," I replied, sliding in across from him. "Thanks for showing up. What's the deal?" I laid it all out. Lorie's late nights, the shady phone calls, that burner phone, and the girls' weekend, I was dead sure was a cover for sneaking off with Gavin Holt. Pete listened, stone-faced, jotting notes on a small pad. "You want a tail on her?" he asked when I was done. "I want proof, stuff that'll hold up in court. If this ends in divorce, I'm fighting for my girls." "Smart," Pete said, nodding. "Most guys in your shoes go off half-cocked and tank their case. You're playing it cool." "Not my first rodeo," I said. Pete gave a tight smile. "That's why you called me instead of swinging a tire iron." We spent the next hour mapping it out. Pete would shadow Lorie, documenting her every move. I'd set up cameras in the shared spaces of our house, legal since my name's on the deed. We'd build a case, slow and steady, something bulletproof for court. "One more thing," Pete said as we got up to leave. "You know Mitch Kendrick?" I frowned. "Marla's ex, the ex-Marine?" "That's him. Runs private security now. Solid guy, doesn't care for his ex or her crowd. Could be useful. Can you loop him in?" "Already did. He's on board." Saturday rolled in with heavy clouds and a threat of rain. Lorie was buzzing around, packing for her girls' weekend, stuffing enough clothes for a month-long trip. "All that for 2 days at a cabin?" I asked, eyeing a slinky red dress I'd never seen before. "A woman needs choices," she said, not meeting my eyes. "Besides, we might hit a nice restaurant." "In the middle of nowhere?" I pressed. "There are fancy spots everywhere, Jack. You'd know if you ever took me somewhere better than a burger joint." The jab stung, partly because it wasn't all wrong. I'm not the candlelit dinner type, but I'm loyal, and I show up for my family every damn day. Guess that's not enough anymore. Marla pulled up at noon in her shiny Audi, honking instead of coming to the door. She had 2 others with her, Jenna Walsh, who plasters her whole life online, and Kay Thornton, Lorie's cousin from Chicago. Kay's the loose cannon in Lorie's circle, single, successful, and doesn't hold back on what she thinks of everyone else's choices. "Ready for some girl time," Marla shouted as Lorie tossed her bags in the back. "Beyond ready," Lorie called back, not even glancing at the house where me and the girls stood watching. Sophie pressed her nose to the living room window. "Why doesn't Mommy say bye anymore?" "She's just pumped to see her friends," I lied. Ellie scoffed. "She's being a jerk, and you know it, Dad." The Audi peeled out, kicking up gravel. I watched it vanish, then texted Pete. "Target's on the move." His reply pinged back. "Got eyes on her." The rest of Saturday was quiet. I took the girls to a superhero flick, then we grabbed pizza. Back home, we binged some streaming shows until bedtime. Normal family stuff that felt off without Lorie's fidgety presence. Around 11 p.m., my phone lit up with a text from an unknown number. "This is Mitch. Pete passed me your digits. Got something. Check your email." I waited until the girls were out cold, then opened my laptop. Mitch had sent photos, shot with a long lens. Lorie and her friends at some upscale bistro, laughing over wine. Lorie glued to her phone, and then the gut punch. Lorie strolling into a ritzy hotel lobby, Gavin Holt slipping in 5 minutes later. Timestamp, 9:52 p.m. So much for the cabin getaway. Sunday brought more photos. Lorie and Gavin sharing coffee at a cafe. Lorie browsing lingerie while Gavin loitered outside, the two of them walking hand in hand through a park like smitten kids. Each image cut deeper, but I forced myself to stay clinical. This was evidence, hard proof of cheating that'd stand up in court. Sunday night, Lorie came home looking radiant, like she'd just stepped out of a spa. "How was the cabin?" I asked, keeping my tone neutral. "Perfect," she said. "So chill. Just hung out, chatted, you know. Girl stuff. You wouldn't care." "Probably not," I said. "The girls missed you." "I miss them too," she said, but her eyes didn't sell it. "Sometimes a woman needs to remember who she is, beyond wife and mom." "And who's that?" I asked. She studied me, searching for a crack in my poker face. "Someone who deserves more than this," she said finally. That night, she slept as far from me as the bed allowed. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, plotting my next step. Monday morning, Lorie dropped a bombshell. "Me and the girls are planning another trip." "Already? You just got back." "Marla found this amazing spot in the Ozarks. Super rustic, no signal, totally unplugged." "When?" "Friday to Sunday." "Fine," I said. "The girls and I will hold down the fort." What Lorie didn't know was Pete had already pinned down the cabin from last weekend, a high-end lodge Gavin rents for his flings. And this rustic Ozark spot, probably another one of his hideaways. This time, I was ready to shake things up. I called in sick on Friday and got to work setting things in motion. Pete had already snuck in during the week while I was at the site, installing tiny security cameras around the house, small enough to blend into the walls, catching everything in the living room, kitchen, and hallways. Mitch was on board for the next step of the plan. Lorie left that afternoon with the same crew, Marla, Jenna, and Kay, headed for their so-called rustic retreat. "Have a blast out there in the boonies," I called as they piled into the Audi. "Oh, we will," Lorie said, barely glancing my way. The second they were gone, I kicked things into gear. I rang my sister, Carla, and asked her to watch the girls for the weekend. "Your old man's got some adult business to handle," I told Ellie and Sophie. They were thrilled. Carla lets them eat junk food and stay up past midnight. With the girls out of the picture, I drove to the spot Mitch had tipped me off about, a swanky lodge 2 hours west, tucked in a quiet valley by a creek. Pricey, private, perfect for a secret getaway. I parked a ways down the road and hiked through the pines until I had a clear view of the place. Lorie's car was there, along with Gavin's fancy electric ride, but Marla's Audi was nowhere in sight. Curious, I hunkered down with my camera, ready to wait. As the sun dipped low, Lorie and Gavin stepped out onto the lodge's porch, all laughs and wine glasses, hands all over each other. Lorie was rocking that red dress I'd spotted in her bag. I snapped photos and recorded video, capturing every detail. Lorie popping grapes into Gavin's mouth, his hands wandering where they had no right to be, her giggling at some whispered sweet talk. 20 years of marriage, and I'd never seen her light up like that with me. When night fell, they slipped back inside, their shadows moving against the glow of the lamps. I'd seen enough, more than enough. I had what I needed. As I trekked back to my truck, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. "Jack, it's Kay, Lorie's cousin." I froze mid-step. "Kay, how'd you get my number?" "Doesn't matter right now. What matters is you're not as clueless as Lorie thinks." "What's that supposed to mean?" "I know you're not parked at home playing couch potato, and I know Lorie's not at any girl's weekend. Where are you?" "At a real cabin about 60 miles from where your cousin's shacked up with Gavin Holt. Marla and Jenna think Lorie bailed with a stomach bug and stayed home with us." I couldn't help but grin, cold and sharp. She's playing everyone and doing a lousy job of it. "Look, Jack," Kay said, "we're not tight, but Lorie's family, and I care about her. She's screwing up big time, and she's going to torch her family doing it. Why tell me this? Because you seem like a stand-up guy, and your girls don't deserve to get caught in this mess. Also, I can't stand Gavin Holt. He's a sleaze who's worked his way through half the wives in town. So what's my move? Be smart. Don't go storming in like some hot-headed husband. Build your case, protect your kids, And when the time's right, make sure you come out on top. Any tips? Kay paused. Lorie's always been big on drama. Loves the spotlight, the big moments. If you want to hit her hard, go for her reputation. She cares more about looking good than anything else. She'd rather die than be the bad guy. So I make her the bad guy. Exactly. But do it clean. Do it legal. Can you pull that off? I thought of Ellie and Sophie, our home, the 20 years Lorie was ready to trash for a fling with a guy who'd drop her the second he got bored. Yeah, I said, I can handle it. Good, I'll keep in touch. The call was cut off. I stood in the dark woods, the faint sound of laughter drifting from the lodge where my wife was throwing away everything we'd built. But for the first time in weeks, I didn't feel like I was drowning. I felt like a guy with a game plan. Lorie was about to learn that underestimating me was a bad call. Sunday night, Lorie dragged herself through the door, putting on a show like she was auditioning for a movie, moaning about how wiped out she was from hiking and sleeping on lumpy cabin mattresses. Rough weekend, huh? I said, grabbing her bags. Maybe pick a place with better beds next time. It was Kay's call, she said, quick and slick. You know how she is with her back-to-nature kicks. I nodded, playing along, while mentally cataloging another lie. The cameras Pete set up were already paying off, recording every word of Lorie's made-up story. Sophie, bless her, clung to Lorie's legs like a little monkey, thrilled to see her. Watching Lorie hug our girls while spinning lies made my blood boil, but I kept my face blank. Daddy and I had a blast too, Sophie chirped. We went to Aunt Carla's, baked brownies, and watched movies till late. That's awesome, sweetie, Lorie said, but her eyes were already on her phone, probably texting Gavin about how much she missed him. That night, she claimed she was too beat to talk and crashed early. I stayed up, going through the photos and videos Mitch had sent. The evidence was ironclad. Lorie and Gavin at candlelit dinners, strolling hand in hand by the creek, kissing under the stars. Enough to bury her in court. But as I sifted through it all, something clicked. Winning in court wasn't enough. I wanted Lorie to feel the sting of her choices, to taste the same betrayal and shame she'd put me through. Kay's words rang in my head. Hit her where it hurts most, her image. Lorie was obsessed with looking perfect, volunteering for every community board, showing up to every town event, curating our family's flawless online persona. Being seen as the villain in our marriage's collapse would gut her, so that's what I'd do. Monday morning, I set up a meeting with Pete and Mitch at the same diner where this all kicked off. Pete and Mitch looked like they just won a poker game when we sat down at the diner. We've got everything you need to clean up in court, Pete said, sliding a USB drive across the table. Photos, videos, proof of her lies about where she's been. Any decent lawyer can lock in full custody with this. That's not enough, I said, leaning back. Mitch raised a brow. What's that mean? I don't just want to win in court. I want people in this town to see Lorie for who she really is. I want consequences. Pete frowned. That's a risky move, Jack. You start slinging mud, it can splash back on you. Not if I'm careful. Not if I let her dig her own grave. I laid out my plan. They listened, swapping looks now and then. When I was done, Mitch spoke first. It's ballsy, but it could work. Just make sure you don't come off as the bad guy. That's the idea, I said. I'm not going after Lorie. I'm giving her the rope to hang herself, then stepping back to watch. What do you need from us? Pete asked. Keep tailing her, keep documenting, and be ready for when it gets ugly, because it's gonna get real ugly. For the next 2 weeks, I played the clueless husband to a T. Didn't call Lorie out on her lies, didn't ask prying questions, didn't switch up my routine. To everyone else, I was the same old predictable Jack. Steady, boring, punching the clock. But behind the scenes, I was building a case. Pete kept up the surveillance, catching Lorie and Gavin getting sloppy, lunching in broad daylight, holding hands in cafes where half the town could see them. Lorie was so wrapped up in the thrill, she forgot to cover her tracks. Mitch helped me beef up the tech side. We upgraded the home security system, supposedly for safety, but really to record every lie Lorie told, every snide remark about me to her friends, every time she brushed off the girls. It was all on tape. I also started working our social circle, not to spill the beans, but to drop hints. A casual mention of Lorie's new late-night hobbies. An offhand question about whether anyone saw her at events she swore she was at. Nothing too obvious, just enough to get people curious. The big break came in the third week. Lorie announced she and Gavin were hitting the annual charity gala together. Together? I asked, glancing up from my laptop. Not together, she said too fast. I mean, we'll both be there. Gavin's a sponsor and I'm helping organize it. It's just work. Sure it is, I said, keeping my tone flat. Don't get all snippy with me, Jack, she snapped. What's with that attitude you've had lately? If you've got something to say, spit it out. I looked at her. New dress, pricey makeup, earrings I'd never seen before. She looked gorgeous, guilty, and cocky all at once. Nothing to say, I said. Have fun at your work. She stared at me down for a second, then grabbed her purse and stormed out. I'll be late. Don't wait up. The second she was gone, I called Mitch. It's time to go time. You sure? Dead sure. Lorie wants to parade around with Gavin in public. Let's make it a show. The gala was at the Willow Creek Golf Club, a snooty place obsessed with its old money vibe. Lorie had been hyping this event for months, seeing it as her big chance to strut around as Gavin's arm candy in front of the town's high rollers. She had no clue I'd snagged a ticket weeks ago. I got there early, parked myself at the bar in my sharpest suit, forcing a smile that felt like chewing gravel. A few folks I knew gave me nods or small talk, and I kept it light, one eye on the door. Lorie rolled in at 8:30, turning heads in a sapphire dress that probably cost more than my truck payment. Gavin was glued to her side, playing the big shot developer, arm around a knockout date. They looked good together, I'll give them that. But Lorie didn't notice the whispers, the quick glances, the phone's snapping pics. Thanks to my subtle nudging and Pete's evidence leaking into the rumor mill, word of their affair was already spreading. I bided my time until they were settled at Gavin's sponsor table, surrounded by the town's movers and shakers. Then I made my move. I approached the event planner, a frazzled woman juggling a clipboard and a headset. Hey, I think there's an issue with the presentation video, I said. What kind of issue? She asked, looking panicked. Tech glitch. I manage projects for a living. Seen this stuff before. You might want someone to check it before the show starts. Her face lit up with relief. Could you take a look? We're swamped, and I don't have anyone else who knows this stuff. Happy to help, I said. I followed her to the AV booth where a half-asleep tech was fiddling with the setup for Gavin's big speech about his latest real estate deal. It took me 3 minutes to swap out the presentation file with one Mitch had put together. Looks good to go, I told the planner. It should be a hell of a show. I slid back to my spot and waited. Gavin's intro was all pomp, praise for his business smarts, his charity work, his dedication to the community. He stood to applause, gave Lorie's hand a kiss, and strode to the podium like he owned the place. Thanks for the warm welcome, he started. Tonight, I'm excited to share my vision for our town's future and the people who inspire me to keep pushing forward. He clicked the remote for his first slide. Instead of blueprints or spreadsheets, the screen lit up with a crystal clear shot of Lorie and Gavin locked in a steamy kiss in a hotel parking lot. The timestamp screamed it was taken 3 weeks ago on a Tuesday afternoon when Lorie told me she was at a school board meeting. The room went dead quiet. Gavin was scrambling with the remote, trying to skip to the next slide, but it just got worse. Up popped a video of him and Lorie at some fancy bistro, giggling over their secret escapes and how her clueless husband didn't suspect a thing. Tech glitch, Gavin mumbled, his face white as a sheet. The next slide was a screenshot of their texts, the ones from that burner phone, including the one about meeting at their usual spot and dripping with excitement. People in the room were already whipping out their phones, recording the train wreck. Lorie went from glamorous in her sapphire dress to looking like she'd seen a ghost in under a minute. She was hissing something at Gavin, but he was too busy fumbling to shut down the projector to notice. I stood up, walked to the front, and plucked the mic from Gavin's limp hand. Folks, I said, keeping my voice steady, thanks for coming out to this fine charity gala. A special shout out to my wife Lorie for her tireless work in our community. I nodded toward her table, where she was sinking into her chair like she could vanish. And a big thanks to Gavin Holt for his dedication to local progress. The room was so quiet you could hear a napkin hit the floor. I think we've all learned a valuable lesson tonight about keeping things honest in our relationships and our dealings. Right, Lorie? She shot up, wobbling, and bolted for the exit, shoving past tables and sending someone's wine glass crashing. Gavin scrambled after her, leaving behind a crowd of stunned faces and flashing phones. I handed the mic back to the flustered coordinator and strolled back to the bar. Well, damn, said the guy next to me. That was something else. Yeah, I said, sipping my whiskey. Real eye-opener. By morning, the video of Gavin's presentation disaster was everywhere online. Lorie's affair was the town's hottest gossip, and her carefully crafted image as the perfect mom and wife was in tatters. But I wasn't done. She'd spent weeks making me feel like an idiot behind my back, laughing with Gavin while I played dutiful dad. Now it was her turn to feel the sting, and I was just warming up. The fallout hit fast and hard. By Sunday morning, the video had racked up thousands of shares. Lorie's phone was blowing up, but she wasn't picking up. She holed up in our bedroom, claiming a headache, while I whipped up pancakes for the girls and dodged questions I wasn't ready to answer. "Dad, why's everyone at school talking about Mom?" Ellie asked, scrolling her phone with a scowl. "What are they saying?" "Weird stuff about her and some guy named Gavin. There's all these videos." I glanced at her screen. Someone had posted a montage set to some cheesy soap opera music, cutting between clips of Gavin's gala flop and shots of him and Lorie cozying up around town. The caption read, "Local big shot blows up his own affair at charity gala." It had over 60,000 views. "Dad," Ellie said, her eyes worried, "is Mom cheating on you?" Before I could answer, Lorie shuffled into the kitchen, looking like she'd been through a blender. Pale, messy hair, eyes hollow. "Girls, head upstairs," she said softly. "But Mom," Sophie started. "Now." The girls looked at me. I nodded and they trudged off, Ellie shooting nervous glances back. Lorie and I faced off across the kitchen, 20 years of marriage stretched thin as a wire. "How could you do that to me?" she whispered. "Do what?" "You know what? That presentation, those pictures, humiliating me in front of everyone." I set my coffee mug down slow. "I didn't ruin you, Lorie. You did that all on your own. I just made sure folks saw it." "You bastard," she spat. "You've been spying on me, haven't you? Stalking me like some creep. I've been documenting your affair. Big difference." Her face crumpled, and for a split second, I thought she might break, might try to save what was left of us. Instead, she squared her shoulders and glared, eyes blazing with hate. "You think you're so clever, don't you? Think you've won some big game. But you have no idea what you've started. You've humiliated me, embarrassed our kids, and pissed off people who can make your life hell." "Who's that?" "Gavin's got lawyers, Jack. Top-notch ones with connections. He can bury you." "That a threat?" "It's a warning. Back off, or you'll regret it." I let out a bitter laugh. "Regret? I've been regretting for months. Regretting my wife lying to my face every day, sneaking around with another man while I'm home with our girls, thinking I'm too dumb to notice." "I never said you were dumb. You didn't have to. Every fake girls' night, every time you came home reeking of his aftershave, you were screaming it loud and clear." Her phone buzzed again. She glanced at it, swiped it off, and didn't answer. "This isn't over," she said. "No," I agreed. "It's just getting started." She stared me down, then turned and stomped upstairs. I heard the bedroom door slam as I started on the breakfast dishes. My phone rang. Unknown number. "Jack, it's Kay. Saw the video. Damn, that was cold." "Had to be done," I said. "Maybe, but you gotta watch your back now. Lorie's out for blood, and she's not thinking straight." "What's that mean?" "She called me at dawn, sobbing and raging about how you've wrecked her life. She's talking about grabbing the girls and bolting, getting Gavin's lawyers to come after you, making you pay." My stomach went ice cold. She can't take the girls. She can try, and if she does something reckless, it's gonna get nasty quick. You need to be ready. "Ready for what?" "For a fight, Jack. This is war now." Monday morning brought more trouble. Lorie's boss called, putting her on leave while they looked into how her personal drama was tanking the company's image. Apparently, some big clients had seen the video and weren't thrilled about working with someone caught in a public scandal. I overheard Lorie on the phone in the kitchen, her voice climbing higher as she tried to spin it. "It's a private matter that got dragged out without my permission," she said. "My personal life doesn't touch my work." The call ended with her hurling her phone across the room. It smashed against the wall, screen cracking. "Feel better?" I asked, leaning against the counter. "Shut up," she snapped. "This isn't helping your case." "My case? This is all your fault, Jack. You did this to me." I just held up a mirror to what you were already doing, Lorie. You made the choices. Now you get the consequences. Lorie stood there in the kitchen, eyes darting like a cornered animal. She snatched her car keys off the counter. "Where are you headed?" I asked. "Out. Away from you. Girls will be home from school soon." "Then you handle it," she snapped. "You're so damn good at everything, aren't you?" She stormed out, slamming the door so hard the windows rattled. I swept up the shards of her broken phone, thinking about Kay's warning. Lorie was unraveling, and desperate people did reckless things. I called Pete, Need you to keep tabs on Lorie today. She's losing it, and I'm worried she'll do something dumb. Already on her, Pete said. She just pulled into Gavin's office lot. Looks like she's fishing for a shoulder to cry on. Good. Keep me updated. An hour later, Pete called back. You gotta see this. Sending a video. The clip showed Lorie and Gavin in the parking lot behind his office, locked in a heated argument. No sound, but their body language said it all. Lorie pleading, arms flailing, Gavin backing off, hands up. She grabbed his sleeve. He yanked free. She started crying. He hopped in his car and peeled out, leaving her alone in the lot. My phone buzzed again. Jack, it's Mitch. We've got a problem. What kind? The kind where your wife just keyed Gavin's fancy car and started chucking rocks at his office windows. I pinched the bridge of my nose. Cops there? Not yet, but security's coming. You might want to get down here. I called Carla to grab the girls from school, then sped to Gavin's office as fast as the speed limit allowed. I pulled up just as the police were stuffing Lorie into a squad car. Her hair was a mess, mascara streaking her face, and she was yelling about being framed. Gavin stood by his scratched-up electric car, talking to another cop, pointing at the damage with a scowl. When he spotted me, his eyes went dark. This is on you, Hensley, he shouted. You pushed her to this. I pushed her to vandalism? That's a new one. You humiliated her in front of the whole town. What did you expect? I expected her to own her choices. Guess I gave her too much credit. Gavin took a step toward me, fist balled. You son of a… What? I cut him off. Gonna swing at me with all these cops watching? Smart move for a guy like you. He froze, but his glare didn't waver. This ain't over. No, it ain't. But you might want to ask yourself if Lorie's worth tanking your reputation and your business. She's not the polished lady you thought you were getting. She's a wreck who just committed a crime because you ghosted her calls. Gavin glanced at his scarred car, then at the patrol car where Lorie was still screaming and banging the window. For the first time, he looked rattled. Good. Let him stew on whether his fling was worth the cost. I drove home and called my lawyer. Lorie spent the night in lockup. She was released Tuesday morning on bail, charged with vandalism and disorderly conduct. The local news picked it up, complete with security footage of her tearing into Gavin's car. When she walked in that afternoon, she wasn't the confident, scheming woman I'd been married to for 20 years. She looked hollowed out, like a shell of herself. Where are the girls? She asked quietly. At school. They don't know about last night yet, but it won't stay quiet long. She sank into a chair at the kitchen table, head in her hands. I've lost everything. You chose to gamble everything. There's a difference. Gavin won't talk to me anymore. Says I'm too much drama for his brand. Shocker. My job's gone. My friends won't call back. The whole town thinks I'm unhinged. Are you? She looked up, eyes red and puffy. Maybe I am. Maybe I'm crazy for throwing away a solid marriage, a good life, for a guy who doesn't give a damn about me. For a second, I felt a flicker of pity. Then I remembered the burner phone, the lies, the months of her making me feel like a fool while she snuck around. Too late for regrets, Lorie. Is it? Can't we try to fix this? Go to therapy? Start fresh? I looked at the woman I'd loved for 2 decades, the mother of my girls, my partner in building a life. She was broken, desperate, finally ready to fight for us. But it was too late. No, I said. We can't. Lorie's face crumpled, and she broke into deep, gut-wrenching sobs. I watched her fall apart, feeling nothing but a grim satisfaction that she'd finally face the consequences. The war wasn't over, but I'd won this round. Her reputation was shot, her affair was public, and her lover had ditched her at the first sign of trouble. But Kay was right. Desperate people play dirty, and Lorie still had moves left. The story hit the local paper's police blotter, a small blurb on page 7. Local woman charged with vandalism after damaging former lover's vehicle. In our little town, page 7 was as good as the front page. Everyone read the blotter, and everyone knew who local woman meant. The girls came home from school Wednesday, questions spilling out. Dad, is it true Mom got arrested? Sophie asked, her voice small and shaky. Yeah, sweetie. She made some bad calls and got in trouble. Is she going to jail? No, she'll probably just pay a fine. Maybe do some community service. Ellie, who'd been quiet, finally spoke. Everyone at school's talking about her and that Gavin guy. It's embarrassing. I know, and I'm sorry you're dealing with it. Are you getting divorced? I looked at my girls, these incredible kids caught in the crossfire of their parents' mess, and made a call. Yeah, we are. Sophie's eyes welled up. Ellie just nodded, like she'd seen it coming. It's not your fault, I said. Sometimes grown-ups make choices that hurt the people they love, and some things can't be undone. But your mom and I love you both more than anything, no matter what. Will we have to pick who to live with? Ellie asked. I hope not, but if it comes to that, whatever you choose is okay with me. I'll always be your dad, no matter where you are. That night, after the girls were in bed, Lorie and I had the talk we'd been dodging for weeks. I want joint custody, she said, voice flat. 50-50. No, Lorie. Those girls watched you lie to them for months. They're dealing with the fallout of your public affair and your arrest. That's not fair. Fair? I let out a harsh laugh. Was it fair when you left me stranded at that gas station in the rain 3 months ago because I asked about your girls' night? Was it fair when you spent our anniversary weekend in a hotel with Gavin, telling the girls you were at a work retreat? Her face went pale. How'd you know about that? I know everything, Lorie. Every lie, every secret meetup, every time you picked him over us. Did you really think you could hide it forever? You've been spying on me for months. I've been protecting myself and our girls. There's a difference. Lorie sat there silent for what felt like forever. When she finally spoke, her voice was so low I could barely hear it. What do you want, Jack? Primary custody. You can have supervised visits until you show you've got your head on straight. Supervised? She snapped, eyes flashing. I'm not a threat to my own kids. You're not stable, Lorie. You had a public meltdown, trashed Gavin's car, and spent a night in jail. No judge is going to hand you unsupervised access right now. This is temporary, she said, voice shaking. I'll get help. Go to therapy. Do whatever it takes. Maybe, but until then, the girls stay with me. Her phone buzzed. She glanced at it, swiped it away. Who's blowing up your phone? Marla. She's got ideas about the divorce. Ideas? She thinks I should fight you for everything. The house, the girls, alimony. Says I can claim you emotionally abused me, that you're spying, and that gala stunt counts as domestic violence. A cold knot twisted in my gut. Marla Kendrick was a bulldog in a power suit, and she'd helped plenty of her friends bury their exes in court. Is that what you want? Lorie looked around the kitchen at the life we'd built, the photos of Ellie and Sophie stuck to the fridge. I don't know what I want anymore. The next morning, a surprise hit. I was getting ready for work when the doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I saw a polished woman in her 50s, clutching a briefcase. Mr. Hensley, I'm Diane Carver from Child Protective Services. I need to talk about your daughters. My heart sank like a stone. Is there a problem? We got a report about possible neglect and emotional abuse in your home. May I come in? I let her in, my mind racing. This had to be Lorie's doing, or Marla's. They were trying to flip the script, making me the bad guy. Diane spent 2 hours grilling me, poking around the girls' rooms, digging into our family mess. She was all business, asking sharp questions about my surveillance of Lorie, the gala video, and how it was affecting the kids. The complainant says you've been stalking your wife and exposed your children to inappropriate content, she said. What content? That gala video. It's been seen by their classmates. I didn't show it to my girls. Other people recorded it and spread it online. But you set it up. I chose my words like stepping through a minefield. I documented my wife's affair and made sure it was shown publicly. Everything I did was legal. Legal, maybe. But was it best for your kids? That question had been gnawing at me for days. Had I let my need to burn Lorie's world down hurt Ellie and Sophie? Ms. Carver, my wife was cheating, lying to our girls, neglecting them, planning to ditch us. I did what I had to do to protect their future, even if it meant exposing her. She scribbled in her file. I'll need to speak with your daughters privately at school. After she left, I called my lawyer, then Pete, then Mitch. The fight was getting dirtier, and I needed to be ready for whatever Lorie threw next. She's playing hardball now, Pete said when we met that afternoon. CPS means she's trying to pin you as the problem. Can she make it stick? Depends on what the girls say and what else she's got. Mitch coughed. There's a hitch. Those home cameras? Recording someone in their own house without consent could be a privacy violation. If her lawyer's sharp, they'll use it against you. But it's my house too. Doesn't matter. She had a right to expect privacy, and you crossed it. The walls felt like they were closing in. So what now? Be careful how you use that footage, Mitch said, and brace for Lorie getting nastier. He wasn't wrong. That evening, my boss called. Jack, we gotta talk. HR's got complaints about your conduct. They want you tomorrow. What complaints? The kind that could cost you your job. Come prepared for a tough one. I hung up, staring at the ceiling. Lorie was coming for everything. My kids, my reputation, my livelihood. She was following Marla's playbook to a T, but I wasn't out of moves. That night I made calls and sent emails. If Lorie wanted all-out war, I'd give her one she'd never forget. The next morning, while I was stuck in an HR meeting, explaining to a panel of stone-faced suits why my personal drama wouldn't tank my work, Pete was busy. He dropped off packets to key people around town. Lorie's boss, Gavin's business partners, the golf club's board, the girls' school principal. Each packet was stuffed with evidence. Photos, videos, texts, a timeline of Lorie's lies. By noon, Lorie's phone was ringing off the hook. By evening, Gavin's company had lost 2 big clients, and Lorie's job was officially gone. "You bastard," she screamed when she confronted me that night. "You sent that crap to my boss, the school, people who don't even matter. I sent proof of your affair to folks who needed to know who they're dealing with. There's a difference. You're ruining my life. I'm showing the world who you are. If that ruins you, maybe you should have thought twice before jumping into bed with Gavin." Her face was beet red, shaking with fury. "You think you're so damn clever, don't you? Think you've won? I think we're even now. Let's see what you do next." She stormed out, and I didn't see her until the next morning when she showed up with Marla and 2 burly guys I didn't know. "We're here to get Lorie's stuff," Marla announced, shoving legal papers at me, "and to serve you with a restraining order." I glanced at the documents, my stomach tightening. Lorie stood there, frozen, as Marla handed me the restraining order. The papers claimed I'd been stalking her, threatening her, and creating a hostile environment that made her fear for her safety. "This is nonsense," I said, scanning the document. "Is it?" Marla shot back, crossing her arms. "You've been tailing her, snapping photos, and humiliating her in public for weeks. Sounds like harassment to me." "I documented her cheating. Everything I did was legal." "A judge will decide that," Marla said. "For now, stay 500 feet away from Lorie at all times." I watched as Lorie packed her clothes and a few personal things, the 2 guys Marla brought looming behind her like hired muscle. She wouldn't look at me, but tears were streaming down her face. "Lorie," I said, keeping my voice low. She paused, finally meeting my eyes for the first time in days. "It didn't have to come to this." "Yes, it did," she whispered. "From the second you chose to shame me instead of trying to fix us, it was always going to end like this." "You shamed yourself," I said. "I just made sure everyone saw it." Lorie zipped her bag and headed for the door. "You're going to regret this, Jack. I swear." After they left, I sat in the quiet house, wondering if she was right. Had I pushed too far? Had my need to make her pay blinded me to other paths? But then I thought of that burner phone, the months of lies, the way she'd played me for a fool while I held down the fort for our girls. I thought of Ellie and Sophie, who deserved better than a mom who'd toss her family aside for a fling with a guy who dropped her the second things got messy. No, I hadn't gone too far. I'd done what needed doing. Lorie wanted to make me the bad guy? Fine. But she was about to learn that bad guys sometimes come out on top, and I was just getting started. The restraining order turned my life upside down. I couldn't go to the girls' school events, couldn't pick them up from soccer or dance, couldn't even hit the grocery store without worrying I'd accidentally cross paths with Lorie and violate the order. She'd boxed me into a corner in my own town, but she'd miscalculated. She didn't realize how much our daughters saw through her. 3 days after the order was served, Ellie called me from school. "Dad, can you get me? I'm sick." "Sweetie, I can't. The restraining order." "Mom's not here. She's at some lawyer thing with Aunt Marla. Please, Dad, I need to see you." Against my better sense, I drove to the school. Ellie was in the nurse's office, looking pale but resolute. "I'm not really sick," she said once we were in the truck. "I needed to talk to you, and this was the only way." "Ellie, you can't fake sick to skip school. You faked being clueless for weeks while you tracked Mom." Point taken. My 13-year-old had me pinned. "What's up?" "I know what Mom's trying to do. She's making everyone think you're the problem so she can take us away from you." "How do you know that?" "I heard her talking to Marla last night. She's going to say you're dangerous, that we're not safe with you, that you've been turning us against her." My grip tightened on the wheel. "Have I?" Ellie gave me a look too sharp for her age. "Dad, I'm not a toddler. I know the difference between being fed a story and being shown the truth. Mom cheated. She lied to us. She got arrested. You didn't make any of that up. But I did put it out there for everyone to see. I embarrassed her. She embarrassed you first. She just did it quietly where no one noticed. At least you were upfront about it. We drove in silence for a bit. Then Ellie said, Dad, I don't want to live with Mom. Neither does Sophie. We want to stay with you. It might not be that easy, kid. The court'll listen to us, right? We're old enough to have a say. Maybe, but your mom's gonna fight dirty. She'll say things about me that aren't true. Try to make it look like I'm the one who broke everything. Then we'll tell them what really happened. That afternoon, Diane Carver from CPS called. Mr. Hensley, I've finished my investigation. Can we meet to go over my findings? What did you find? I'd rather discuss it in person. Can you come to my office tomorrow morning? That night, I barely slept, staring at the ceiling, wondering if my plan had backfired. Had I pushed too hard and convinced CPS I was the issue? The next morning, I sat in Diane's stark office, trying to read her poker face as she flipped through her file. Mr. Hensley, I've spoken with your daughters, their teachers, neighbors, and others. I've also reviewed the evidence of your wife's affair and the circumstances of your separation. I'm recommending you get primary custody with supervised visitation for their mother. Relief hit me like a wave. Seriously? Your daughters were clear about what they wanted and why. They're worried about their mother's stability and recent behavior. They also said you've been their main caregiver for months, even before the split. What about the stalking and harassment claims? Diane peered over her glasses. You documented your wife's affair and made it public. Your approach was aggressive, but it wasn't illegal or a danger to your kids. If anything, your daughters respect your honesty. The restraining order is a separate civil issue. It doesn't change my recommendation. I walked out feeling like I dodged a bullet, but I knew Lorie wouldn't go quietly. This would only make her more desperate and more dangerous. I was right. That evening, Mitch called. Jack, heads up. Lorie and Marla are meeting with some high-dollar lawyers from Indianapolis, the kind who chew up people in divorce court. What's their angle? Not sure, but they're digging into your finances, your business contacts, your past. They're hunting for dirt. Let them dig. I'm clean. Everyone's got something, Jack. It's just a question of whether they will find it. 2 days later, the hammer dropped. I got to work and my boss was waiting in my office, looking like he'd swallowed a lemon. Hensley, we've got a problem. I've got allegations about your conduct. What kind? Financial misconduct. Someone's saying you've been padding project budgets and pocketing the difference. My blood ran cold. That's a lie. I know. I've worked with you for 8 years. You're straight as an arrow. But the paperwork they sent looks bad. Real bad. My boss slid a thick file across his desk, stuffed with invoices, receipts, and financial records that painted a picture of me skimming cash from clients by inflating project costs. The paperwork was slick, too slick, like it was crafted by someone who knew how to fake evidence. This is all bullshit, I said, my voice steady despite the knot in my gut. I believe you, Jack, he said. You've been solid for 8 years, but the clients don't know you like I do. 3 of them are already raising hell, and if this leaks, it could tank the company's rep. So what now? You're on paid leave until we clear this up. No active projects. I drove home in a fog, my mind racing. Lorie and Marla had just gut-punched my career, maybe my whole future. They were coming for every piece of my life with surgical precision, backed by high-priced legal muscle. But they'd miscalculated. They didn't know how far I'd go to protect my girls and what was left of my world. That night, I called Pete and Mitch for an emergency sit-down. They're not messing around anymore, Pete said after I laid out the situation. Fraud allegations, custody fights, restraining orders. They're trying to wipe you out. Can we prove the documents are fake? Probably, Mitch said, but it'll take time and cash. Meanwhile, your name's mud and your paycheck's on hold. So what's our move? Mitch leaned in, eyes hard. We go all in, stop playing defense, and hit back hard. How? We expose everything, not just Lorie's affair, but Marla's role in this. The fake evidence, the coordinated attack on your job. We make it so loud and ugly they can't keep coming at you. How do we pull that off? Leave it to us, Pete said. But Jack, if we do this, there's no turning back. Lorie's done for. Her reputation won't recover. I thought of Ellie and Sophie, our home, the 20 years I'd spent loving a woman who'd become a stranger. Do it. The counterstrike kicked off at dawn. Pete had spent the night digging into Marla Kendrick's divorce practice, pulling records of cases where she'd helped clients cook up evidence to bury their exes. Mitch used his old cop connections to trace the fake financial documents to a shady PI who specialized in fabricating dirt for divorce battles. But the real kicker was something we didn't see coming. Gavin Holt's empire was crumbling. His real estate deals were propped up on shaky loans and overvalued properties. He was months from bankruptcy, hiding it from his investors. And Lorie's public affair had dragged his shady business into the spotlight. "He's broke," Mitch explained, laying out the evidence. "Leverage to the hilt, underwater on his properties. The affair wasn't just a fling. He was using Lorie to sniff out your family's finances, thinking you might be a cash cow to bail him out." "He played her," I said, almost laughing at the irony. "And when the affair went viral, it spooked his investors." Lorie hadn't just torched our marriage for Gavin. She'd burned herself for a guy who was ready to drop her the second he got what he wanted. We dropped it all at once. The fake documents, Marla's history of dirty divorce tactics, Gavin's financial house of cards, and a timeline showing how Lorie had been suckered by both her lover and her lawyer. It hit social media like a wildfire. By noon, Marla was staring down a state bar investigation. Gavin's last investors were pulling out, demanding their money. Lorie was left standing in the rubble of a life she'd wrecked, not because of me, but because of the choices she made and the people she trusted. That evening, Lorie showed up at the house looking like she'd been through a war. "You destroyed me," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "No, Lorie, you did that yourself. I just made sure everyone saw it. Marla's suspended. Gavin won't answer my calls. I've got nothing. You've got Ellie and Sophie. If you're willing to fight for them, they hate me. They're disappointed. That's different." She sank onto the front steps, looking small and broken. "I don't know how to fix this. Start with the truth. To me, to the girls, to yourself. And then you figure out how to be the mom they deserve. Might take years, might never happen, but it's your only shot." She sat there quiet for a long time. When she spoke, her voice cracked. "I'm sorry, Jack, for everything. I threw away a good life for a fantasy that was never real. I know you are. Can you ever forgive me?" I looked at the woman I'd loved for 20 years, the mother of my girls, the partner I'd built a life with. She'd thrown it all away for a con man who never cared. "Maybe someday," I said, "but not today." Lorie nodded, stood, and wiped her eyes. "I'll drop the restraining order and the custody fight. The girls belong with you. What'll you do?" "I don't know. Start over, maybe. Figure out who I am when I'm not pretending." She walked off into the dusk, and I watched her go, feeling no victory, just a heavy, bone-deep weariness. Sometimes winning feels a lot like losing. The next morning, the girls came home. Ellie hugged me tight and whispered, "I'm proud of you, Dad. You didn't let her win." Sophie climbed into my lap and fell asleep, trusting I'd keep her safe no matter what came next. 6 months later, Lorie moved to Oregon to live with her sister and start therapy. Gavin's business imploded, and he skipped town, leaving a trail of debt and angry investors. Marla lost her law license and took a job as a legal assistant in another state. The girls and I stayed in our house, surrounded by neighbors who'd watched the whole saga and decided the good guy could still come out on top. I haven't remarried. Maybe one day, but not now. For now, it's just me, Ellie, and Sophie, piecing together a new life from the scraps of the old one. And when the storms roll in, because they always do, we face them together.